7th. My name is Tammy Sadler-Jones. I'm the Assistant City Administrator, and the board members present to my right is Jason Lanyon, the Fire Chief, and to my left is Scott Stokes, the Director of Public Works. And at this time, we'd like to begin the meeting, and I'd like to make a motion that we make an amendment to the agenda by moving item 2013-001, public hearing Oakdale Food Mart, to behind item V13011, so we can do all of our variances at the same time.
Second.
Yep.
Push the motion button.
Okay. All right. All in favor? All right. Motion passes unanimously.
You want to explain that to him? Make sure he understands that.
Yeah. Mr. Trivedi, we're just going to do all the variances, and then we'll do your item last, just to keep those together. Okay. All right. First item, public hearing, variance request V13-007, reduction of rear setback from 50 feet to 36 feet, 0.82 acres, land lot 453, 3425 South Cobb Drive, multi-site properties. And this item was tabled from the February 13th License and Variance Board meeting, and it's my understanding this is O'Reilly Auto Parts Store. Are the representatives here? Can you please step to the podium? And for the record, can you state your name and also tell us about your variance request?
I'm David Kelly with Multi-Site Properties. We are proposing to build a building there to rent to O'Reilly's Auto Parts. The reason we're requesting a rear setback variance is to try and keep as much of the parking in the front and on the side of the building as possible to make it more convenient for the customers, but also to have as little traffic behind the building to impact the residential user behind us as possible.
Okay. All right. And any questions for the applicant? All right, well, this time we'll have the staff comments. Joey Stubbs.
Joey Stubbs, Planner 1 with Community Development. The applicant pretty much described the variance request. We have met with him a couple times, and he's made adjustments to the site plan to request the minimum variance that he really needs, and he's made every adjustment to the plan to accommodate us. This is a parcel that is mostly surrounded by general commercial properties, except for the rear property is a residentially zoned property, which requires a greater setback than if it were abutted by general commercial. So we would rather have him put the parking to the front and grant him a variance for the rear setback than having all the parking in the rear, and which would be much more of a disturbance to that neighbor. We've also asked him to put a fence in the back and shrubbery that will create additional buffer there. So he has met with all the neighbors and notified them of the variance. We've received no opposition to the request. We recommend approval with the following conditions. 1, the application for building permit will be subject to further review for compliance with the South Cobb Drive Corridor Design District requirements. 2, approval of the subject property for the requested variances shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevation submitted with the variance application. 3, a wooden privacy fence not less than 6 feet in height shall be installed at the northeast property line that abuts residential property. 4, a 10-foot buffer strip shall be required on the common boundary line between the subject property and residential property per Section 503 of the City of Smyrna's Code of Ordinances. And 5, an additional 15-foot buffer shall be provided composed of evergreen shrubs and trees not less than 6 feet in height, extended beyond the required 10-foot buffer strip from the designated employee parking area to the left side property line, as generally shown in Area A on Exhibit A, which has been attached.
And for the record, is O'Reilly in agreement to these conditions? Can you state it at the mic, please?
Yes, we are.
Okay, all right. Any questions?
I got some. I guess for the developer, where's the dumpster? The thought just crossed my mind. Where's the dumpster?
It's back there where the employee parking would be, and that was one comment I was going to make in terms of the staff recommendations. The extra 15-foot landscape buffer we're happy to do. I think, though, that landscaping would probably be better served kind of wrapping around the dumpster enclosure. I mean, it's going to be enclosed with a masonry enclosure, but that landscaping may be better served kind of wrapping around that to shield from view. There are some residential properties across the street and further up Ridgecrest Drive.
Where the dumpster will it be visible from South Cobb Drive?
It will.
But you stated that it will have 3 sides enclosure
And gates on the front.
Okay, that's fine. I think that the intent, Joey, if you could speak to this, the intent of the buffer is to shield the neighbors from the building, maybe not so much the dumpster. So I think I'd agree with community development.
Probably to shield, there's a church
Okay.
on that side. And I'm assuming it's to shield the church view from the parking back there. Is that right, Joey?
It's mainly for the residential property to the rear.
And is that person aware that periodically they will hear a dumpster being dumped?
I can't answer that.
Okay, all right.
Have you had discussions? Can you tell us about your discussions with the neighbor?
I've talked to Ms. Bennett, which lives behind us, showed her what we're planning to do, told her what we're doing, told her what our purpose was in terms of trying to keep some of the public parking away from her, showed her where the dumpster is going to be, and she's happy with it, especially in comparison to what some of the other potential uses could be there in a general commercial zoning. I've also talked to the pastor of the church next door, and he was happy with the plan. And I talked to Mrs. Hernandez across the street, across Ridgecrest Drive, and she was fine with it as well.
Okay.
Joey, I got a question. So this landscape buffer realistically is going to be along the entire rear property line.
Correct.
So it'll encompass the dumpster enclosure area also.
Yeah, it just won't wrap around it on the Ridgecrest side. It's directly behind the dumpster.
Oh, you'll be able to see it from Ridgecrest, but from the adjoining residential, she won't see it.
No.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions? At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve variance request V13-007, reduction of rear setback from 50 feet to 36 feet, 0.82 acres, land lot 453 at 3425 South Cobb Drive for multi-site properties with the following conditions. Condition number 1, the application for building permit will be subject to further review for compliance with the South Cobb Drive Corridor Design District requirements. Condition number 2, approval of the subject property for the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevation submitted with the variance application. Condition number 3, a wooden privacy fence not less than 6 feet in height shall be installed at the northeast property line that abuts residential property. Condition number 4, a 10-foot buffer strip shall be required on the common boundary line between the subject property and the residential property per Section 503 of the City of Smyrna's Code of Ordinance. Condition number 5, an additional 15-foot buffer shall be provided composed of evergreen shrubs and trees not less than 6 feet in height, extending beyond the required 10-feet buffer strip from the designated employee parking area to the left side property line is generally shown in Area A on Exhibit A. That's my motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second that we approve variance request V13007. All in favor? Okay. All right, motion passes unanimously. To continue with this particular item, public hearing, variance request V13008, reduced parking from 40 spaces to 32 spaces, 0.82 acres, land lot 453-3425, South Cobb Drive, multi-site properties, tabled from the February 13th License and Variance Board hearing. And can you state for the record this particular variance request?
It basically the same purpose in terms of trying to keep as little parking in the rear of the building as possible to have as little impact on the residential neighbor as possible.
Okay. And do you have any statements?
No, we agree with the applicant. I recommend approval with the same conditions as V13-007. We'd rather have that area in the rear used for a buffer instead of parking. So.
Okay. All
Joe.
right.
You said same conditions as the last one. Do those conditions even apply to this variance request? Do they need to be added to it? Or, I mean, since they're already in the record for this property?
They don't necessarily apply to that,
Okay.
to the parking, no.
So you'd recommend approval of this with no conditions?
We could do that, yes.
Okay.
Joey, could the applicant have 8 additional parking places without any problem here, or is it this lot size and shape and dimension won't allow it whatsoever?
The lot size and, designing it to allow for trucks to have, egress and ingress, there's just no way to design it that way. So there's really no extra other places for parking. And I imagine for auto parts store, there's some area of the floor space used for inventory that is counted in the overall. But we would think of it all as retail floor area, but probably 75% of this building is retail floor area. If you were to look at it that way, he would be compliant with the parking standards.
Let me clear that up. This is what you're saying, that if the way that these 40 spaces are required is assuming that the entire building is retail floor space, when in fact a pretty good size, maybe even 25% you mentioned, is actually going to not be retail floor space, it's going to be inventory space.
Right.
If they didn't have that inventory space, this variance might not even be necessary.
Correct, but our ordinance doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Well, it seems like, I mean, just using some common sense, that 32 spaces for an auto parts store ought to be sufficient. I don't know any auto parts store that, unless they're giving something away, would have more than 40 cars there at one time.
Correct, and we had estimated that it would be a quick turnover of customers in that.
You brought up the delivery. That brings up a pretty good point. I don't know that it has anything to do with this, but when do auto parts stores get their deliveries? In the middle of the night? Is there going to be a semi-truck backed up behind this lady's house at 2 in the morning, guys slamming boxes around?
I can address that. Okay. They're not in the middle of the night. They're usually early in the morning. And what they'll do is they'll come in off of Ridgecrest Drive, pull in parallel to the building, and unload and come in through that side door and then come back out on South Cobb Drive. Okay. So they won't ever be behind the building, between the building and her house at all.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Well, but if we're bringing a tractor trailer down a residential street?
Just for the probably 200 feet to get in that side entrance.
Oh, so they're not coming from...
No, they're not. They're coming off of South Cobb.
South Cobb and then turning.
Correct. and they'll come in, turn onto Ridgecrest, come in that side entrance, come back out on the South Cobb driveway.
Okay.
Now, they will not be coming through the neighborhood, coming from where it connects to Windy Hill.
What I'll
or
probably
Concord.
do is part of the motion, guys, is require O'Reilly Auto Parts to put up a no trucks sign on Ridgecrest just past the that entrance exit, so we can stop.
At least have them on notice that they can't go out that, come or go that way.
Okay. I guess one other question is,
Your mic on?
you know, sir.
Is your mic on?
One other question: if I'm familiar with AutoZone and Advance, what kind of activities does O'Reilly Auto Parts provide the customer outside in the parking lot?
Very little. I mean, if somebody comes in there and needs a battery, you know, if they need help, a lady comes in there and her battery's dead and needs help, they'll help her with that, you know, but you're not going to see people changing the oil in the parking lot or anything like that. I mean, it's just very little.
Okay.
All right, this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to make any comments regarding this request, I ask that you please step to the podium at this time. Seeing no one, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve variance request V13-001. I'm sorry, 011. Reduction. I'm sorry, wrong one. V13-008.
Right.
Okay. Reduce parking from 40 feet to 32 feet.
Bases?
Sir, reduce the parking spaces, yes. 0.82 acres, land lot 453, 3425 South Cobb Drive, multi-site properties with a stipulation also that the applicant or permit holder install a sign according to MUTCD designating no trucks past the Ridgecrest driveway.
Second.
Motion. Okay. All right. Discussion? Okay.
I just want to clear up exactly where that sign's going to go. You're talking about on their property. You mean east, west, north, south? What are we talking about, Scott?
The sign will be, I guess, northeast of the driveway cut on Ridgecrest Road.
For the, I guess, to clear it up, for the intention that when the truck driver leaves, he doesn't decide that he can make a left and go through that neighborhood or make a turn out there and not go back to South Cobb Drive, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, visible for both the approach to Ridgecrest Drive and also visible for the travel on Ridgecrest Drive.
Okay. Can the applicant affirm that they agree with that stipulation for the signage?
We do. In terms of the wording, does it need to say no trucks beyond this point?
I mentioned MUTCD, which is a manual on traffic control devices, so that sign, and that'll be picked up on plan review also, so
Okay.
we'll stipulate it.
We're okay with that.
All right.
I'm done.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor? All right. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item V13011, public hearing, variance request, reduction of front setback from 35 feet to 20 feet, 0.19 acres, land lot 559, 2890 Elizabeth Street, Sansea Properties.
Yes,
And for the record, can you state your name?
Yes, ma'am. My name is William Harper. I'm
Okay.
one of the principals of Sansea Properties.
All right. And can you tell us about your variance request?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the board. We are the builders that have been building across the street in Spring Street Village, and this particular lot is not a part of that community, but is directly across Elizabeth Street from it. And when we purchased the remaining lots in Spring Street, we purchased, along with those, this one lot on Elizabeth Street, 2890 Elizabeth Street. It's my understanding that this was a long-standing established neighborhood here, and at some point, perhaps when Smyrna adopted their zoning ordinance, they assigned an R15 category to this property. However, this is not a 15,000 square foot lot. It is approximately 8,000 square feet. So therefore, it's subject to the R15 setback requirements, but it does not contain 15,000 square feet. So the property is constrained and a very limited building space available in the lot when you take into account a 35-foot front setback and a 30-foot rear setback. So we have a contract to build and sell a house on the property, and it would be on a basement, and we would propose adjusting the front building line to 20 feet from its current 35 feet. That would allow us to orient the homes exactly like those across the street that have been recently constructed. They are 20 feet on 20-foot building lines, and it would allow us to have the deck on the back of the home within the available building envelope. So we are requesting that that front yard setback be reduced from 35 feet to 20 feet for the construction of a single-family home. It'll be a nice home, very similar to the ones across the street. It's, like I said, it's under contract to sell in the $330,000 to $40,000 price range. And I'll entertain any questions.
How many square feet is the new house you're getting ready to build?
2,500 square feet, not including the basement.
Okay. And you said the price point somewhere in the low threes?
Yes, sir, $330-something thousand.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from Mr. Harper? At this time, we'll have Joey Stabbs make a comment.
Stobbs.
Stop. Okay, sorry.
The properties on, the applicant has described the hardship clearly. All of the properties on the west side of Elizabeth Street are, have a reduced setback. We've also granted a variance to the property at 2910 for a reduction of the front setback. So if we approve the reduction of this setback, it would be, it would be consistent with the development pattern of the rest of the neighborhood. And like Mr. Harper said, the east side of Elizabeth Street is at the same setback. So we have posted signage, and he has notified all of the neighbors. We've received no opposition. We recommend approval with the following condition. The applicant shall be required to comply with the tree conservation and replacement ordinance per Chapter 106, Article 2 of the City of Smyrna Code of Ordinances. And the applicant has already produced that document to us. So,
Okay, any other questions for the staff? Well, at this time, I would like to ask that this is a public hearing. If anyone else would like to speak regarding this item, that you please step to the podium at this time. Seeing no one, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion that we approve variance request V13-001, public hearing variance request, reduction of front setback from 35 to 20 feet, 0.19 acres, land lot 559, 2890 Elizabeth Street, with the one staff recommended condition. Make that in the form of motion.
That's for V13011, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'll second that.
It's been motioned and properly second that we approve variance request V13011. All in favor, please vote. Okay. Got this new technology that we're working with.
I'm nervous for a minute.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, item number V2013001, public hearing, Oakdale Food Mart. This item was tabled from the February 13th License and Variance Board meeting. Mr. Trevidi, can you please step to the podium, please? And for the record, can you state your name?
Dada Trevetti.
Trevetti, okay. Sorry. And can you tell us about your request for, is it change of agent?
It is.
Okay. And it's my understanding you have completed the responsible alcohol sales class.
Yes.
All right. And you've received a copy of the city's alcohol beverage ordinance.
Yes.
And have you read and do you understand that ordinance?
I do.
Okay. And then what steps do you have in place to prevent the sale of alcohol to minors?
Similarly, what over the course of the last few months, everything that I've learned, we put in set policies in both locations that I currently own. There's a sign basically that says no alcohol or tobacco is sold to anyone under the age of 21 or the under the age of 18. That for tobacco is 18, for alcohol is 21 on the door. As well as we have for my employees, we have a training that happens twice a month, as well as there's a folder that has all the ordinance paper right next to the register with a sign that has the date that says, hypothetically, if today's February 26th, 2013, you can't sell alcohol to anyone February 26th, 2000, and they have to be born before the 1990 or 1991. Sorry, for that. So that sign is there that covers the. If anyone has a question, you look at the ID, look at the date. Doesn't match, give it back to them. Can't sell it.
Okay.
As well as we do go through the protocols of explaining that if it's a horizontal versus a vertical, IDs, explaining the difference between the two, as well as paper IDs are not accepted, even if it's valid Georgia license, even if it's vertical.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Any other questions?
Well, I'll go ahead and ask. I think I know the answer. But are you familiar with the fact that Smyrna Police Department conducts undercover operations where they will bring a minor to your location and attempt to buy alcohol?
I do. I've learned the extreme hard way.
Okay. And are you clear on the fact that if that does occur, the first thing that will happen is that the person that sells to an underage person will go to jail right there?
I do.
And you're familiar with, regardless of how that person's case turns out, your ability to hold a license to sell alcohol can be affected by that person's actions?
I do.
Okay. And you understand that if violations occur on this, that you're the one that's going to be held responsible?
I do.
Okay. And since we heard your case a couple weeks ago, your other location is going to suffer a suspension and probation for a year. We talked about that it's our opinion, and we believe that probation will cover this location too, because both the probation is really on you and your license and your ability to hold a license.
Okay.
So, although there won't be any other types suspensions that apply to this location, if we were to have an issue at this location, you and your other license effectively are on probation, and that could result in more harsh actions, I guess, than if it was a first-time type event, because we already you got your first time already.
Right.
And that applies for every location you get a license here in Smyrna. So it sounds to me like, and I'm impressed, and I think the board is, with everything you're doing to prevent this. We realize that it looks to us like you really are taking this serious, and we appreciate that, and we hope not to see you back in here again for anything like this.
Unless it's getting a new one, I don't want to have to ever come back.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Who's the owner of this store?
The building or the business?
The business?
That would be me.
Okay.
It's under an LLC, not an LLC, an Inc., Gunsham Food Mark Inc., which I have the 100% shares.
What's the, say, percentage of alcohol sales out of this store?
I couldn't tell you because since the day I've taken over, I haven't sold alcohol here. The previous gentleman before me was, I bought this store strictly on the fact that he had a good location, but terrible. He kept no product in the store, and he ran it down. But it being in such a great community, it had the potential in terms of what I visioned for that location, a very good neighborhood store for the local public that is on Oakdale Road, that doesn't want to go across South Cobb Drive, or veer all the way down Wright Road and then go all the way down East-West Connector to Publix. This is a neighborhood store where you can get your beer or cigarettes or milk and eggs. And, it's a just stop and go type of store with great location. So I bought it based on that information. He did not divulge any financial information to me at any point during our due diligence period when we were purchasing the property.
Okay.
What's the street numbers on Oakdale? Or what's the address? Let me ask you, what's the address?
5055
Okay.
Oakdale Road,
Okay.
Smyrna, Georgia 30080.
Mr. Cox?
Hi, Jim Cox, business license officer.
Everything to file for this change of agent?
Everything's fine.
Everything's covered, and we have all the documents and necessary information we need to proceed.
We do.
Thank you, sir.
All right, the Smyrna Police Department did do a background investigation, and it revealed no information that would preclude issuance of this particular license. So with that said, I would like to have a public hearing, and if anyone has any comments about this particular issue, I ask that you please step to the podium at this time. And seeing no one, I would like to entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 2013-001, change of agent for alcohol sales permit. Is it alcohol sales permit, Jim? What's the title of it? Is it alcohol sales permit?
It's a privilege
license.
license for alcohol sales, beer and wine.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve 2013-001, change of agent for a privilege license for alcohol sales, beer and wine, for Oakdale Food Mart at 5055 Oakdale Road for Dada Trevetti.
A second.
Vote. We should insert the word package. Package sales.
Package sales, beer and wine sales. If you could reflect that in the minutes as part of the motion, that'd be fine.
All right, it's been motioned and properly second that we approve the change of agent for Oakdale Food Mart located at 5055 Oakdale Road, Smyrna, Georgia. All in favor, please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And the last item on the agenda is approval of the February 13, 2013 License and Variance Board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 2013-080, approval of February 13, 2013 License Variance Board minutes. I'll do it.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second that we approve the meeting minutes for February 13, 2013. All in favor, please vote. And the motion passes unanimously, and I would like to declare this meeting adjourned at 10:34 a.m.